Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda
Nityananda
Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hari Bol, Hari Bol,
Hari Bol.
Hari Bol, Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaura Hari Bol, Nita Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol,
Hari Bol.
Hari Bol, Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Jai Jai Prabhupada, 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 Jai Prabhupada, 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 Jai Jai Prabhupada, 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 Jai Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Nita Yoda Premanande.
Hari Bol.
Alright, Krishna. Harbo Bhaktasi, welcome to you. I didn't get to give you a proper greeting like everyone else. Hope you're well. We're reading Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 2, starting with text 13. If you want to follow along, I'm just going to do the invocation. If you'd like, please repeat for the first part here. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate
Bhagavate
Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate
Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
Narayanam Namaskritya Narang Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet Shrinvatam Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtanaha Hridyantasto Hyabadrani Vidhunoti Sahrit Satam Nashtaprayeshva Badreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. Hare Krishna. Welcome Aruna Lochana Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Hope you're well today. Thank you so much for joining us. So nice to have you. Hope you're well. We just finished a little kirtan and we're diving into Canto 1, Chapter 2, Text 13, if you'd like to follow along. And I think pretty much everybody knows, but just in case, basically we're just hearing. It's just a hearing meditation, hearing in the mood of gratitude for Srila Prabhupada, and trying to hear with rapt attention in a submissive mood. And but if anybody has questions, comments, realizations, we'll invite them. Please do share if anything hits you or is like, oh man, I was just thinking about that earlier, and oh, I can't believe it. It's that kind of thing. Something just clicks or anything like that. It's very inspirational. So please do share at any time. And if I'm talking or reading, don't hesitate to just unmute and just say anything, because it's very much invited and wanted. So, all right. Hare Krishna. All right, we'll start with text 13. Atta pumbir dvija shreshta varnashrama vibhagashaha swanustatasya dharmasya sangshidhir haritoshanam. Translation. O best among the twice born, it is therefore concluded that the highest perfection one can achieve by discharging the duties prescribed for one's own occupation according to caste divisions and orders of life is to please the personality of Godhead. Purport. Human society all over the world is divided into 4 castes and 4 orders of life. The 4 castes are the intelligent caste, the martial caste, the productive caste, and the laborer caste. These castes are classified in terms of one's work and qualification and not by birth. Then again, there are 4 orders of life, namely the student life, the householder's life, the retired, and the devotional life. In the best interest of human society, there must be such divisions of life. Otherwise, no social institution can grow in a healthy state. And in each and every one of the above-mentioned divisions of life, the aim must be to please the supreme authority of the personality of Godhead. This institutional function of human society is known as the system of Varnashram Dharma, which is quite natural for the civilized life. The Varnashram institution is constructed to enable one to realize the absolute truth. It is not for artificial domination of one division over another. When the aim of life, that is, realization of the absolute truth, is missed by too much attachment for indriya priti, or sense gratification, as already discussed herein before, the institution of the Varnashram is utilized by selfish men to pose an artificial predominance over the weaker section. In the Kali Yuga, or in the age of quarrel, this artificial predominance is already current. But the saner section of the people know it well that the divisions of castes and orders of life are meant for smooth social intercourse and a high-thinking self-realization and not for any other purpose. Herein the statement of Bhagavatam is that the highest aim of life or the highest perfection of the institution of the Varnashram Dharma is to cooperate jointly for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord. This is also confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 4.13. Text 14. Tasmadekena manasa bhagavan sadvatam patihi shratavya kirtitavyascha yeya pujascha nityada. Therefore, with one pointed attention, one should constantly hear about, glorify, remember, and worship the personality of Godhead, who is the protector of the devotees. Purport. If realization of the absolute truth is the ultimate aim of life, it must be carried out by all means. In any one of the above-mentioned castes and orders of life, the 4 processes, namely glorifying, hearing, remembering, and worshiping, are general occupations. Without these principles of life, no one can exist. Activities of the living being involve engagements in these 4 different principles of life. Especially in modern society, all activities are more or less dependent on hearing and glorifying. Any man from any social status becomes a well-known man in human society within a very short time if he is simply glorified truly or falsely in the daily newspapers. Sometimes political leaders of a particular party are also advertised by newspaper propaganda, and by such a method of glorification, an insignificant man becomes an important man within no time. But such propaganda by false glorification of an unqualified person cannot bring about any good, either for the particular man or for the society. There may be some temporary reactions to such propaganda, but there are no permanent effects. Therefore, such activities are a waste of time. The actual object of glorification is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who has created everything manifested before us. We have broadly discussed this fact from the beginning of the Janmadhyasya shloka of this Bhagavatam. The tendency to glorify others or hear others must be turned to the real object of glorification, the Supreme Being, and that will bring happiness. Text 15. Yaranudhyasina yukta karma granthina bandhanam chandanti kavirastasya kona kuryat kataratim. With sword in hand, intelligent men cut through the binding knots of reactionary work, karma, by remembering the personality of Godhead. Therefore, who will not pay attention to his message? Purport. The contact of the spiritual spark with material elements creates a knot which must be cut if one wants to be liberated from the actions and reactions of fruitive work. I'll read that. I'm going to read that sentence again. The contact of the spiritual spark with material elements creates a knot which must be cut if one wants to be liberated from the actions and reactions of fruitive work. Liberation means freedom from the cycle of reactionary work. This liberation automatically follows for one who constantly remembers the transcendental pastimes of the personality of Godhead. This is because all the activities of the Supreme Lord, his Leela, are transcendental to the modes of the material energy. They are all attractive spiritual activities, and therefore constant association with the spiritual activities of the Supreme Lord gradually spiritualizes the conditioned soul and ultimately severs the knot of material bondage. Liberation from material bondage is, therefore, a byproduct of devotional service. Attainment of spiritual knowledge is not sufficient to ensure liberation. Such knowledge must be overcoated with devotional service so that ultimately the devotional service alone predominates. Then liberation is made possible. Even the reactionary work of the fruitive workers can lead one to liberation when it is overcoated with devotional service. That's amazing, actually. Karma overcoated with devotional service is called karma yoga. Similarly, empirical knowledge overcoated with devotional service is called jnana yoga. But pure bhakti yoga is independent of such karma and jnana, because it alone can not only endow one with liberation from conditional life, but also award one the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Therefore, any sensible man who is above the average man with a poor fund of knowledge must constantly remember the personality of Godhead by hearing about him, by glorifying him, by remembering him, and by worshiping him always without cessation. That is the perfect way of devotional service. The Goswamis of Vrindavan, who were authorized by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to preach the bhakti cult, rigidly followed this rule and made immense literatures of transcendental science for our benefit. They have chalked out ways for all classes of men in terms of the different castes and orders of life in pursuance of the teachings of Srimad Bhagavatam and similar other authoritative scriptures. Hare Krishna. Any comments at this point? Looks like not. Here's a famous verse for you. Text 16. Shrushusho shradadhanasya vasudeva kataruchi syanmahat sevaya vipra punyatirtha nashevanat. O twice born sages, by serving those devotees who are completely freed from all vice, great service is done. By such service, one gains affinity for hearing the messages of Vasudeva. Purport. The conditioned life Excuse me. The conditioned life of a living being is caused by his revolting against the Lord. There are men called Deva, or godly living beings, and there are men called Asuras, or demons, who are against the authority of the Supreme Lord. In the Bhagavad Gita, 16th chapter, a vivid description of the Asuras is given, in which it is said that the Asuras are put into lower and lower states of ignorance life after life, and so sink to the lower animal forms and have no information of the absolute truth, the personality of Godhead. These Asuras are gradually rectified to God consciousness by the mercy of the Lord's liberated servitors in different countries according to the supreme will. Such devotees of God are very confidential associates of the Lord, and when they come to save human society from the dangers of godlessness, they are known as the powerful incarnations of the Lord, as sons of the Lord, as servants of the Lord, or as associates of the Lord. But none of them falsely claim to be God themselves. This is a blasphemy declared by the Asuras, and the demoniac followers of such Asuras also accept pretenders as God or his incarnation. In the revealed scriptures, there is definite information of the incarnation of God. No one should be accepted as God or an incarnation of God unless he is confirmed by the revealed scriptures. The servants of God are to be respected as God by the devotees who actually want to go back to Godhead. Such servants of God are called Mahatmas or Tirthas, and they preach according to a particular time and place. The servants of God urge people to become devotees of the Lord. They never tolerate being called God. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was God himself according to the indication of the revealed scriptures. But he played the part of a devotee. People who knew him to be God addressed him as God. But he used to block his ears with his hands and chant the name of Lord Vishnu. He strongly protested against being called God, although undoubtedly he was God himself. The Lord behaves so to warn us against unscrupulous men who take pleasure in being addressed as God. The servants of God come to propagate God consciousness, and intelligent people should cooperate with them in every respect. By serving the servant of God, one can please God more than by directly serving the Lord. The Lord is more pleased when he sees that his servants are properly respected, because such servants risk everything for the service of the Lord and so are very dear to the Lord. The Lord declares in the Bhagavad Gita 1869 that no one is dearer to him than one who risks everything to preach his glory. By serving the servants of the Lord, one gradually gets the quality of such servants, and thus one becomes qualified to hear the glories of God. The eagerness to hear about God is the first qualification of a devotee eligible for entering the kingdom of God. All right, Krishna. I think I'll just share one thing at this point. Aruna Lochana Prabhu. I remember we were having a short conversation about, as devotees maybe traveling and being received by devotees and others, and sometimes feeling awkward when they're really like serving you hand and foot, basically. And actually, this purport is directly connected with some of the conception behind that. And I just thought to share that. Basically, Prabhupada's, the concept is, those who are serving, those who are engaged in devotional service, who are factually serving God, basically, Prabhupada's teaching us that Krishna is more pleased when you are serving his servants. And so, this is also, like the verse is saying, by serving those devotees who are completely freed from all vice, great service is done. By such service, one gains affinity for hearing the messages of Vasudeva. So, like, we're being it's kind of like a little cheat code that we're hearing right now of if we are struggling in our taste for hearing, this also it also applies to chanting like japa. If we're struggling in our taste of hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, Shastra, or and even hearing our like japa, chanting the holy name daily, basically by serving devotees, especially well, here what's being said is those devotees who are completely freed from all vice. By serving them, actually, one gets an eagerness and more of an affinity for hearing, which is it's pretty amazing. And so, it has been said that you can. There is a way that generally, as devotees, we're not really meant to judge others. You know, like unless I myself am on a very advanced level and can actually see where other people are spiritually, which means I can actually see myself and have some advanced stage of self-realization, then really we can't know what level others are on, generally speaking. So for most devotees, it's like wise to take the safe route of assuming that they're more advanced than me. Not like, oh, this guy's doing this or this devotee's doing that, and obviously they're not so advanced. Like that's a risky, not so recommended mentality for a devotee to be like judging who's advanced and who's not. But it is a quality of a madhyama adhikari, there's a kanishta, the madhyama, and the uttama adhikari. Of a madhyama adhikari, to be able to discriminate and distinguish who's advanced, who's innocent, who's envious, who's, and deal with them accordingly and be able to preach also. But so even at the madhyama stage, basically erring towards caution is recommended. Not that we, or the discrimination is there not to judge others or even necessarily correct or anything like that, but to have the discernment of being able to, okay, let me take association from this devotee because they're obviously advanced. Being able to tell who's advanced, who's not so advanced, who's innocent, who's actually envious. So. Sorry, I kind of lost where I was going with that. To be able to have the discernment who's advanced, but not, not in a harmful way. So anyway, the point I'm getting at is by serving advanced devotees, we get a taste for hearing and chanting, and it has been said that you can gauge the advancement of a person by how eager they are to hear. So if we're in ourselves in a position of, and especially if we're sincere, because Prabhupada's talking in this purport about like these people who pretty much claim to be God, and they very much like when people are like worshiping them like God. Like in India, people all the time like just like present themselves as like a prophet, a saint, a god, a mendicant. Because the culture there is that they really respect spiritual knowledge. So anybody could just go put on saffron cloth and sit there and just like hold their hand out and wait for you, and just people just put money in it. But has nothing to do with self-realization, God consciousness. They're basically just cheating people by presenting themselves as a saintly person. But that is, that's basically how does Prabhupada put it? Anyway, they're unscrupulous. That is basically condemned is the word I'm looking for. But for one who is actually walking the path, it may be considered their duty to actually go for the benefit of others, teach spiritual knowledge, and basically one of the most difficult things to do is to accept service as a service and genuine humility and actually walking, practicing with integrity and then going and giving to others. If one is practicing with integrity, then whenever one does go and give association to others, there's so much potency there. Automatically, Krishna will inspire them. You'll carry those austerities with you, and it'll inspire them in devotional service, help bring them closer to Krishna, and it's a huge service. This is like one of the main services of like a renunciate. A traveling sannyasi goes from here to there basically for the benefit of the people, and he will inspire, householder devotees, people in general. As a householder devotee, you might be working, managing family, paying so many things, fixing so many things going on, and maybe we can't chant as much as we want or hear as much as we would like. And then, when a real, genuine sannyasi comes, it's just like so ecstatic and enlivening to feel the vibration from a real, genuine practitioner like that, who, it's very much enlivening, can change the whole atmosphere of the home, and so there's a great reciprocation there. The householders are very happy to serve in any way they can. Can we feed you? You can sleep here if you want. You're welcome to bathe. Do you need anything? Here. And the renunciate is doing his austerities. He's doing his practice. And so he has the transcendental, the devotional service and the transcendental integrity to come and actually uplift the consciousness. So anyway, Hare Krishna. I just kind of thought to share some of those thoughts. If one is, to be on either side is a very wonderful position to be in terms of devotional service, and it's a very nice system actually. But if we find ourselves on the side of in a position of receiving service, if we don't really feel inclined to receive it, and it's kind of awkward, well, that's good. Because as soon as we start like thinking, they should be like worshiping my feet. Yeah, well, that's just basically as soon as you start thinking like that, then you're disqualifying yourself for that position and doing a disservice for everybody. So, sometimes, we might find ourselves in a position where it's like, okay, that's where Krishna has placed us. So, well, at least I can try to do my part. Let me walk the path, chanting 16 rounds, following 4 regulative principles, and just by sincerely at least endeavoring, Krishna provides what we lack and preserves what we have. And you become detached. It's not so much about us. It's more about, okay, Krishna, let me try to serve you, and if there's anything I can add, I'll do to serve these nice devotees. But all across the board, the mood of serving devotees is prominent. Just serve the devotees. So, any thoughts or anything? Corrections?
It's very, 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 very wonderful news.
What exactly?
Verse and the whole commentary on it is amazing. Like, just amazing. I want to know what verse that was. What verse was that? The purport.
It's 1 to 16 that we just read. Shru
Awesome.
Shru Shro Shradadhanasya Vasudeva Kata Ruchi Shyan Mahat Sevaya Vipra Punyatirtha Nashevanat. Ruchi means taste. When I was very young brahmachari, this really like ecstatic brahmachari came from. He said he was from Vrindavan. I met so many people. Everybody said they're from Vrindavan. I started to doubt who was and who wasn't. I don't know, but he seemed like he really was. He had a lot of potency, and he just was telling me, you pray for the ruchi, pray for the ruchi." And I was like, "Yes, yes, sir." So I actually did for a long time. I every day at least once, like just take the time because I really aspired to, have a taste like these advanced devotees, and I definitely experienced some reciprocation. And now that we're hearing this, I'm kind of inspired to practice that again. Pray for the ruchi more and more.
That's what I need to do. Ruchi and Asakti and Asakti.
Did you want to share any other points?
Well, I kept on muting and muting because I was wondering if I could say like. Actually, I was just wondering what the first was, but I was like enlightened here listening to you, Prabhuji. You're really like you deliver amazing transmissions. I really want you to know that, Prabhuji. This is an amazing thing that you
Wow, Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. I'm happy
do.
you're in life, and yeah, it's this particular section of the Bhagavatam is especially special,
I
and
can
this
believe it.
this chapter in itself is just every verse is like super fundamental and amazing.
Yeah,
I have been told that, well, I've seen, I think I shared recently, but probably most everybody here wasn't there when I said this, but I had a friend, we were brahmacharis, and he is a disciple of Vaisheshika Prabhu, and Vaisheshika Prabhu directly was instructing him and others to memorize this chapter, the whole thing. Memorize every shloka in this chapter, because they're all so important. Right? Any other points from anyone? Any other realizations or experience? I can share another kind of funny one on the topic of people posing themselves as God. If we go on book distribution, you might, well, you more than likely will eventually meet someone who is in that category. I met several people who, well, people all the time they say, well, we're all God or I am God. It's like, yeah, whatever. But I had this one guy once. I was in a 16th Street Mall in Denver, which I don't know if anybody knows about that place, but basically it's like a whole street through downtown Denver that's just shops, and they have like a little metro thing that goes back and forth to shuttle people from one end to the other. And there's no cars there; it's just foot traffic, and it's like a strip mall sort of. And we would go there and distribute books all the time. And we'd meet a lot of different people there. And one day, this guy was there, and I approached him and showed him the book, and he immediately was like, "Yeah, I don't need books. I already know everything, and basically, I am God, and I can do. I have my power is unlimited, and whatever. I don't know, some stuff like that." And then I was like, "Oh, okay." And he said, "Yeah, I can do this, and I can do that." And he said, I control the weather." And it was like a really sunny day, like perfect, like blue sky, sunny, perfect, nice day. And I was like, "Really?" And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "So like, you could like make it rain right now?" And he said, "Yes." And I was like, "Can you like?" do it. Can you do it? And he said, oh yeah, I'll do it right now. And then he like took a step back, and then he went like this, like like he started like like doing that. And then I was just like, I was like, I was kind of thinking maybe something was gonna happen. He just sat there and strained with his hands like this, and nothing was happening. And then I was like, I waited a minute and let him. He was just doing it, and I asked him, how long does it take? And he was just like, yeah, it'll happen eventually. And I was like, all right, have a good one. But anyway, people are just puffed up. I thought that
Do
was
you
funny.
think do you think people are puffed up because they think that they see the connection between themselves between like they see Brahman, they see that they're Brahman and they see that everything is Brahman, and then they see that connection and then they get confused and they start maybe thinking that they're the controller of that connection because they're connected to it. It's a theory of mine.
Uh, well, sometimes, Prabhupada does talk about that in more like impersonal, those who have a more impersonal understanding or realization. He said basically that's the last snare of Maya, is thinking that I am God and we are all God. So that can happen. Basically, what you're saying, like getting puffed up, or the misunderstanding of, because we have some understanding of Brahman realization, or something beyond this, then we can get puffed up on that and think that we are God. And there's many different reasons. One is just this kind of people are like clamoring for control, and they're trying to enjoy, and they're trying to enjoy by controlling. And some people, they just think that they're in control, supremely of everything and everyone, and they just deem themselves the supreme controller. And there's so many conceptions, but yeah. Anyway, Hare Krishna. Anybody else have anything to share? Oh, I gotta plug this in real quick. Well, I'll read a little more. Okay. Oh, sorry. All right, 1:2:17. Oh, here's an even more famous verse. Shrinvatam swakata Krishna punya shravana kirtana hridyantasto bhadrani vidhunati satam. Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma, Super Soul, in everyone's heart, and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee, who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. Hare Krishna, make sure everybody got their seatbelts on. All right. Purport. Messages of the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, are non-different from him. Whenever, therefore, offenseless hearing and glorification of God are undertaken, it is to be understood that Lord Krishna is present there in the form of transcendental sound, which is as powerful as the Lord personally. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in his Shikshastaka, declares clearly that the holy name of the Lord has all the potencies of the Lord, and that he has endowed his innumerable names with the same potency. Oh, I like to see you coming back in. There is no rigid fixture of time, and anyone can chant the holy name with attention and reverence at his convenience. The Lord is so kind to us that he can be present before us personally in the form of transcendental sound, But unfortunately, we have no taste for hearing and glorifying the Lord's name and activities. We have already discussed developing a taste for hearing and chanting the holy sound. It is done through the medium of service to the pure devotee of the Lord. The Lord is reciprocally respondent to his devotees. When he sees that a devotee is completely sincere in getting admittance to the transcendental service of the Lord and has thus become eager to hear about him, the Lord acts from within the devotee in such a way that the devotee may easily go back to him. The Lord is more anxious to take us back into his kingdom than we can desire. Most of us do not desire at all to go back to Godhead. Only a very few men want to go back to Godhead. But anyone who desires to go back to Godhead, Sri Krishna helps in all respects. One cannot enter into the kingdom of God unless one is perfectly cleared of all sins. The material sins are products of our desires to lord it over material nature. It is very difficult to get rid of such desires. Women and wealth are very difficult problems for the devotee making progress on the path back to Godhead. Many stalwarts in the devotional line fell victim to these allurements and thus retreated from the path of liberation. But when one is helped by the Lord himself, the whole process becomes as easy as anything by the divine grace of the Lord. To become restless in the contact of women and wealth is not an astonishment, because every living being is associated with such things from remote time, practically immemorial, and it takes time to recover from this foreign nature. But if one is engaged in hearing the glories of the Lord, gradually he realizes his real position. By the grace of God, such a devotee gets sufficient strength to defend himself from the state of disturbances, and gradually all disturbing elements are eliminated from his mind. Hare Krishna. All right, here's another nectar verse. Nashta prayeshva badreshu nityam bhagavat sevaya bhagavat yuttama shloke bhaktir bhaviti naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. We got something on the chat. 1 second. Oops. Let me get to it. How do we know if Lord Krishna is helping us, though? How do we know if Lord Krishna is helping us? Well, thank you for your question. You ask 10 different devotees that question, they may just give you 10 different answers. The answer I will give is, sometimes we might be engaged in devotional service, and when things are going really nicely, and just, so many pleasant things are happening, then we think, oh man, Krishna just reciprocated so much today. And then, then the next day we are doing service, and just like, it seems like every couple minutes there's just something going wrong. Like this devotee got mad at me and chastised me, and then I tried to, I went to the kitchen, I twisted my ankle and fell and dropped the milk or whatever. And, these kind of things, and it's just one of those days. And sometimes, those kind of days may happen over and over and over. And even like you might have a bad week, you might have a bad month, you might have a bad 5 years. But sometimes in that circumstance, actually, Krishna may be testing us. And I've experienced, I'll share this with you. I was driving a truck for a living for like 3.5 years. And I was doing my best to maintain my sadhana, my vows. I kept a vegetarian diet. My diet suffered compared to how it was before being in the truck, but we still maintained at least the basic thing. And I would chant my rounds. Some days I wouldn't be able to chant all my rounds, and then I'd try to make them up the next day or what have you. And it was sort of a lot of juggling and trying to manage a huge workload. But basically, I just knew I really wanted to chant, and I would just, no matter how tired I was or exhausted or whatever, at the end of the day, if I had rounds that I didn't chant, which most of the time I didn't start my rounds until I already did my work for the day, because I'd have to wake up and get driving. I lived in the truck 6 days a week. So I would work all day, and then at the end of the day, I would get out of the driver's seat and sit down in the bunk and I would set up my altar, and then I would just chant, and I'd be so tired sometimes, and I just, some days I just would fall asleep, but I got to the point where I just resoluted, like, I'm chanting these rounds, like I don't care about anything else. And I would do that like every day. And sometimes it was like painstaking. It's just like a challenge of sheer like willpower, like not a lot of taste. And I did that. And then for a long time. And then one time I took a trip. I usually didn't get to go to temples. I hadn't gone to a temple in a long time. I was totally isolated and basically just struggling to practice. And but struggling I was. And then I went to Brooklyn. I stayed one night in a hotel across the street from ISKCON Temple in Brooklyn, where they do the daily Harinam. And then I spent one whole day with the devotees. I went to the morning program, and I went out on Harinam with them. And they asked me to lead kirtan, and I did. And when I did that, I experienced such an intense reciprocation from Krishna, and I perceived it was like all those nights and days and nights of working really hard to chant and struggling to chant, actually, like, all Krishna's reciprocation flooded back in that moment for like the last 2 years of, chanting my rounds, chanting when nobody was there to see, and, struggling to do it. And I had this massive realization, well, a couple realizations, but one was a little glimpse into the potency of, good association of nice devotees. But the other thing was how much Krishna is actually doing, and how much Krishna appreciates when we still are engaging in devotional service, even when everything's not pleasant, or the reciprocation we don't see Krishna's being there. And actually, we just heard about Lord Chaitanya's Shikshastakam, 8 verses, and it's 8 different levels of pure devotional service. And the last verse is considered to be like the highest stage. Ashlishlava pararatam panashtimam adarshanan marma hatam karotu va itatata va vidadhato lampato matprana natas tusa eva naparaha. I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, and he shall remain so, even if he handles me roughly by his embrace, or leaves me brokenhearted by not being present before me. He is my worshipful Lord. Anyway, I kind of butchered it, but he will always remain so. Even if Krishna is showing himself in so many different ways, either personally or through the devotees and through happy, pleasant things, to actually still engage, when it's difficult, when he's not showing his reciprocation, is actually endears the Lord to us so much, and that might go on for some time, but then he reciprocates. So anyway, basically, I know it's kind of a long answer to your question, but if anything else, we can understand from hearing Shastra that Krishna is always helping a sincere devotee. If I'm sincerely trying, then Krishna is helping. And basically, even if I'm not perceiving it, we have faith that he's there, he's seeing, he's actually helping. And we continue chanting. And if you do that, if you just keep chanting, then eventually you will see, like, oh wow, wow, how much Krishna was actually helping me at that time. And then over time of cycles of doing that, you get a deeper conviction and vision of actually how Krishna is acting in your life. And through the process, you become less attached to the externals. If it's really nice, praise, blame, it's all the same kind of mood. Like, okay, yeah, they're saying something nice about me. Especially if you live in a temple, if you go associate with devotees, somebody will come up and say, oh, you're so nice, you're such a great devotee, and such an, we might be attached, and that like moves your false ego, or you're like, oh wow, and then 10 minutes later, another devotee is going to come up and tell you something else, like, don't you ever do anything right, or something like that, chastise you, and it's like, you get both. So not being too attached to either one, and being situated more in the vein of nectar of like serving the devotees, and in the devotional service mood to Krishna. And we become actually liberated, like we were hearing. Liberated from, the ups and the downs and the whatever of the material world. So anyway, sorry I kind of was all over the place with the answering that question, but I'm just trying to encourage keeping faith, at least from hearing, Shastra is telling, Krishna is helping. So, okay, let me just keep chanting. And, sometimes Krishna is just simply testing our sincerity. It's easy to want Krishna when, you're getting so many benefits and, pleasant experiences and so many whatever nice things. If we don't get those things, do we still want Krishna? So, Krishna gives us what we need to come closer to him. And through that process, if we don't really want Krishna, then we'll just, just start doing some sense gratification instead, because we have to do what's in our heart. Yeah. Like Krishna consciousness is really based on desire. So it's an opportunity to check in with oneself and get regrounded in the desire for serving Krishna, devotional service, bhakti yoga. Anyway, anybody else want to add to that or anything? Maybe have a point that I forgot to make, or
Well, there's also, I wanted to say, this person who asked the question, I also talked to them earlier about how the results of our activities are ultimately for our own rectification, and how it's like for purification. And they didn't ask me any questions about it, but I was wondering if maybe they like were asking that as an extension of that. But regardless, I maybe that's like another thing to say. I don't know. But that's everything you said is amazing. You hit the nail on the head, I think.
So are you asking me about the rectification thing?
Just saying
Sorry,
like
I wasn't exactly clear.
sorry, my fault.
No, it's okay.
Um well, I was just saying like the the rectification thing might just be another good thing to bring up. Like maybe that would also help answer that question because I don't because sometimes they might be asking like a really specific question, but it doesn't seem like they're asking exactly the kind of question they're asking. Like the words have a more they cover the words cover it a little bit sometimes. So I was thinking maybe also it'd be good to say it like that about how our karma is for our own rectification, because maybe that will also answer their question.
Right. Especially for one who is like engaging in devotional service. Krishna really takes charge of them, actually,
Right.
and they may receive what looks like karmic reactions, but it's actually not exactly. Or like Krishna will even tailor whatever karma is there or whatever and he'll create specific circumstances that actually curtail uh, like our material desires and mentalities that may be like sinful or not helping in devotional service. And like for example, uh, well, the first one I come up with is I don't know if maybe you can share your experience of this about I don't know if you don't want to, it's okay, but you know, maybe we might desire some kind of sense gratification, and Krishna may be putting so many obstacles in our way, like reminding us, like, you don't really want to do that, you don't really want to do that, but then we go do it anyway, and then we have like a horrible time and all kinds of challenges, and then in the end we realize, yeah, it wasn't worth it at all, and Krishna was really actually trying to protect me, but in the moment I had my eyes on the sense gratification, and I couldn't, you know, appreciate actually what Krishna was doing. You know, is it? You know what I'm saying?
I keep waking up really late, and I'll set my basically my alarm goes off, and then like hours later I actually get out of bed, and it's bad. But today I was having some bad dreams. I was having some bad dreams, and then I woke up from the dream, and I was like, "Oh, Krishna's definitely okay. Krishna's definitely helping me out right now." Yeah, but I just wasn't ready still, so I went back to bed. But shortly I got up. It probably had some good impact because it's like I can remember it and it's weighing in on me a little bit. But maybe eventually, you know, I'll actually listen.
Yeah. So anyway, it just is kind of like the point you're making of, um, you know, getting in tune with ourself, with the basics. Like we're hearing the basics in this chapter. This morning's Bhagavatam class was on text 10 of this chapter, and it's all basically it's the same verse we read. I think we talked about last night. About to see you quote nicely. You know, basically making one's goal of one's life, transferring the one's activities for from the purpose of sense gratification to self-preservation and self-realization as one's goal. And just the more we assimilate the basics and we can understand where we are at, then we can actually see Krishna's. It's like doing the dance of like, okay, yeah, I know myself. I have a specific attachment to this thing, and Krishna is trying to help me become more detached from it gradually. And so, we actually find when we become like serious in devotional service that the whole material nature, even all the demigods, all the different situations that come, is actually coming in support of that, because it's the main function and the goal of life for human beings. It's what human beings were made for. When we align ourselves, even if we're not perfectly pure yet, we'll find that actually all the circumstances and interactions and things coming is actually pushing us, encouraging us in devotional service somehow or other. But it's just a matter of developing the eyes to see it and basically surrendering to it, because in order to get that vision, we have to really step out of our attachments, to things. So anyway, Hare Krishna. Well, it's getting pretty late. If anybody has any other points, I could at least read this last verse.
I'll say that the question, how do we know if Lord Krishna is helping us? One sign would be like your taste. You're getting more of a taste to hear Bhagavatam and be around devotees. And then you'll see that you get like even non-material gifts through that process. Not all like the signs will be like material signs, like something good happens to you or anything, but even just being around other devotees and hearing nectar from devotees is like a good gift from Krishna that we can appreciate.
Yeah, nice point, Prabhuji. Yeah, and actually along with that comes the distaste for material enjoyments. The same stuff just gets old and it's like, it just really isn't cutting the mustard anymore.
Right.
Yeah, thanks for that, Prabhuji. It's a good point.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, all right. I'm gonna read text 18, translation and purport. Okay, translation. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam, and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Purport. Here is the remedy for eliminating all inauspicious things within the heart, which are considered to be obstacles in the path of self-realization. The remedy is the association of the Bhagavats. There are two types of Bhagavats, namely the book Bhagavat and the devotee Bhagavat. Both the Bhagavats are competent remedies, and both of them or either of them can be good enough to eliminate the obstacles. A devotee Bhagavat is as good as the book Bhagavat because the devotee Bhagavat leads his life in terms of the book Bhagavat, and the book Bhagavat is full of information about the personality of Godhead and his pure devotees, who are also Bhagavats. Bhagavat book and person are identical. The devotee Bhagavat is a direct representative of Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead. So by pleasing the devotee Bhagavat, one can receive the benefit of the book Bhagavat. Human reason fails to understand how by serving the devotee Bhagavat or the book Bhagavat, one gets gradual promotion on the path of devotion. But actually, these are facts explained by Srila Narada Dev, who happened to be a maidservant's son in his previous life. The maidservant was engaged in the menial service of the sages, and thus he also came into contact with them. And simply by associating with them and accepting the remnants of foodstuff left by the sages, the son of the maidservant got the chance to become the great devotee and personality Srila Narada Deva. These are the miraculous effects of the association of Bhagavats. And to understand these effects practically, it should be noted that by such sincere association of the Bhagavats, one is sure to receive transcendental knowledge very easily, with the result that he becomes fixed in the devotional service of the Lord. The more progress is made in devotional service under the guidance of the Bhagavats, the more one becomes fixed in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. The messages of the book Bhagavat, therefore, have to be received from the devotee Bhagavat, and the combination of these two Bhagavats will help the neophyte devotee to make progress on and on. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
Yay.
All right, last call for any discussion points.
I'm good.
What a nectar sector. Hare Krishna. Ever since we got to this point, it's just been like off the wall here. So anyway, I really appreciate every single one of you for being here. Thank you for hearing, and thank you for participating. Tomorrow, I am planning to go back to New Vrindavan. I think the Gora Purnima celebration is happening there, and I've committed to a kirtan slot and some service. Hi, Bo Prabhuji. So I'm gonna go back to New Vrindavan tomorrow, and the reading might have to be adjusted to an earlier time. So I put a note out on the WhatsApp and let everybody know, because Abhishek is at 5, and I don't want to read during the Abhishek. So Hare Krishna. So thank you so much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki.
Jay.
Vanchakalpa
Char.
Durubhyascha Kripa
Sindhubhya
Sindhubhya Patitanam
Patitana.
Devo Namo
Vaishnavebhyo
Namaha
Namo Namaha.
Anantakoti Vaishnav Vrinda ki.
Jay.